Hey, there's a smile out of Evan.
I'm always smiling.
Okay, well, a question that I get a lot of times, and we got a lot at UVU.
Welcome, everybody.
Usually-
Welcome him in, jeez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode
Oh, I did that.
here at Happy Rabbit.
I already did that.
you?
No.
Where-
No,
Welcome.
no, he
I'm
didn't. He
doing
didn't.
it.
He didn't.
Welcome
do
to the podcast. Dun, 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 dun.
There we go.
We need a soundboard.
We do need a soundboard.
Or we have a fake one, and then when we do this, we just put the... Or we'll put a red button. Whatever. So, what I was saying, Charles, is a question that we got a few times at UVU, and that I've gotten as kids have come from camera PAs and kind of jumping in, is a lot of time they're asking about, like, proper etiquette. And, like, when I was first starting, you had to put me in my place a few times, but, like, jumping into all that, a lot of times people are getting on set and it's like, what do I do? Hands in my pockets, not talking to anyone, like out of their element. You know, it is weird being like on set for the first time. What's some advice? Like, let's chat about like what's some of your experiences, like getting on set and like how to interact with everyone.
Yeah, there definitely is like that pecking order.
Yeah.
Chain of command.
Chain of command.
Chain
There
of
you go.
command. Yeah.
That you need to follow, and we've kind of talked about a little bit about this in some of our other videos, but yeah, there definitely is, especially when you're new starting out. Like you always, I feel like a lot of new guys are over eager maybe, and they like they tend to step on toes until they get their hand slapped and kind of put in their place, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we'll talk about some of those things.
I have some of those experiences. Today. I think Evan has had a few of those experiences.
I think
Tyson,
everyone
I
has.
know, has had a few of those experiences as you've
100%.
been jumping on set with us.
Yeah.
I think, first and foremost, like, you're showing up, it's your first day at work, you're a PA, you don't really know anyone, maybe a friend's gotten you the job. Who do you talk to? You walk in, like, where do you start?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need to... As a PA, I guess we'll just start as the PA.
Start as
right?
a PA, and then we'll kind of work
And
up.
this kind of works in any of this in the situations, you know, whether you're starting out as like, you know, props or set dressing, camera, like you should be hanging out with those people that hired you.
Yep.
Mostly. And I would even go as far as to say is like maybe your first day only talk to those people.
That's how it was for me.
Until you feel out. Yeah.
Like I just hung out with you two the whole time until I was like more comfortable talking to other people and figuring out what my role really was.
Until you felt the vibe, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Of the set. Because each set is different, and what people expect out of each other is going to be different as well. And so I think it's safe to say, like, hang out with the person that hired you and kind of keep your head down and just do what they tell you to do until...
Yeah,
you feel it out.
My rule of thumb is like even now, like even as a AC operator, even like director, when we first showed up at the NBA job, I keep my mouth shut. I see like all the roles, I see who's playing what, I shake everyone's hand, introduce myself. Thing that came into my mind is I was on a movie, and I remember I showed up and I was like 2 weeks in, I was filling in for someone doing the second half of it, and I was rolling my card into set, and someone like yelled at me. They didn't know who I was because I was showing up halfway through the movie. And this person yelled at me and told me, like, where to put my stuff. And I was like, oh, they must be in charge. Like, that must be locations or something. So I was like, sorry, like, totally, like, bowed my head, moved my stuff. And then the DP came over and they're like, dude, why isn't your shit on set? Like, what are you doing? And I got yelled at from the DP. And day 3 in, I learned that was a PA who was like...
Didn't have a clue.
Didn't have a clue. Saw that there was someone new on set and thought there would be that time to like be in charge, and I haven't seen that PA on another movie since that job.
That's surprising.
And so it's funny that like that kind of stuff, it really does, it happens, and
I mean,
you gotta look for it.
You do get in situations where you'll have your first or your second AD tell you as the PA to like
go relay.
Don't put anything on this table. But really it's because that table is reserved for camera, and then you as the camera guy comes in here to put your stuff on there, and the PA's like, don't put your stuff on there, because it wasn't fully explained to them that the table was reserved for camera, not nobody.
So maybe a little advice there too in that situation would probably be explain yourself. Don't come in all like Hogan and be like, no one set stuff here and act like you're doing good. just explain it like, hey, I was told by so and so that we shouldn't have anything on this table,
Right.
and
Yeah.
maybe that person from camera would be like, oh, I know so and so, like that's because this is for us,
Exactly.
and then boom, like that
all
that
those
interaction
problems like,
is like
solved, you
Yeah.
know. And then it's like, oh hey, I'm, Charles. What's your name? And they can say, oh, I'm whoever.
and I'm a PA, and I'm here, and I've seen your stuff on Instagram, and I love what you do. And then you kind of leave it at that, and then maybe day 3, like, ask a few questions, and then day 6, like, hey, I'd love to learn more. But it's always interesting those people that like come right off the bat, and you're like, whoa, 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 like, dude, I'm trying to do a million things right now, not answer all your questions about what it's like to be an operator, like,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it's
There
interesting.
is-
It's interesting because
there's
there's
that.
like the fine line, but it's also like I feel like we forget to be humans and to have that human interaction with people. I'm very guilty of this because I'm not like a very like social
I'm the same way.
person,
Yeah.
and it's like no, like just this is what you need to do, and
Yeah.
and I like think like that, but also. From the DP aspect of it, where we have to be, in charge of people and have those relations, like let's remember that we're all people and we need to have good environments for people to work in, and we don't have to treat each other like garbage just because
Yeah.
somebody put you in charge of something.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and
you
then
can
kind of
do
going
both.
from like PA, call it utility or AC in that realm, is like if you're coming into that, there's a time and place. As you coming in like from a DP's perspective, you're dealing with a million things. As an AC, maybe first day right off the bat, let you do your thing. When you have 5 minutes, go introduce myself. If you're on a 1-day commercial, it's different. I'm more talking about a feature film or something. But like, know as an AC too, it's okay. Like, let your DP, let your director do their thing for a day or two. Let them realize like you're working hard, you're doing their thing. There will be a time that they come up to you, and then you have that dialogue. I think sometimes people are a little too eager, like right as they get on set, I have to meet everyone, shake everyone's hand, and learn everything that everyone's doing.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes that can come off a little too strong. So even as an AC, I would say fall into that same category a little bit. Know that you are possibly with first AC in charge of your camera department, so you do need to be a little bit more eager in the sense of like who's in charge, locations, like you need to start talking to people and like let people know like your position, but time and place.
Give it a little time to breathe. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's always the first couple days are always hectic on feature films.
Yeah.
Or even longer commercials, Obviously, you have the 1 days that this doesn't really apply to, but on the longer form stuff, the first couple days are crazy. Everybody's trying to figure out how everybody meshes and gels and fits in with everybody. And like honestly, and there's a lot of stuff that has to be figured out. But usually, the third or fourth day into the show, everything kind of calms down. Everybody figures out their roles, and then now it's like, oh, we can actually talk and hang out, or I can, I as a PA can like hit the DP up and ask some questions, and like that's not weird, totally acceptable. But it's once things are calmed down and that you have a minute.
Well, and I'll attest to like week 1 is always like, who are ya? And then like week 2 is like, oh, we have so many common things. And then like week 3 is you're bringing stuff from your house, or I'm bringing something and showing you like a personal thing after work.
Yeah.
And like you build that throughout the weeks too. On a 1-day thing, because someone may say like, oh, I got hired, I'm a PA for 1 day. How do I make the biggest impression on that 1 day on set so I get on again? I would say take that same approach. Put your head down, and like the person who works hard, people notice. I can't tell you how many times when we're in the trenches, we're used to this stuff like day in and day out. If there's a PA that's like there 1 day and they're crushing it, and instead of sitting in the corner trying to have conversations with everyone, they're like getting stuff done, I will notice that person like way more than like the person trying to be everyone's best friend. So
I feel like that's because we came from the hardworking side of making movies, though. Like I was the put my head down and like I'll carry heavy stuff all day long. Like I was that hard worker, that was like throwing down with my grip homies, building shiz, like getting stuff done, as opposed to like the social networker type of person. Because there's definitely those approaches that you can attack.
There are, and
Getting
that
into the
also
industry,
depends.
right?
Like, if you're in hair and makeup, I'm not expecting you to run over and grab our Pelican cases and running them upstairs. So like, if you're in hair and makeup, it's probably a lot more understandable to be that person that's probably like talking to people in corners. So like, I see that too for sure. But I would say if you're a PA, if you want to get into the camera, if you wanted to get into Genie or any of that, like hustle.
Yeah.
Like that's the mindset. That's the people we want on crew. Go to work, put your head down. The conversations will be at like the bar after work or golfing the next Saturday.
Yeah.
But like if you're that person crushing it, you're gonna get invited golfing. So it's like
like the biggest thing you told me was I was just trying to help out wherever I could. I remember you kind of sat me down. You're like, dude, just stay in your lane, do your thing.
Let's talk about that. So NBA job, there was a million things going on.
Yep.
We had a crew of 30 plus people. And here in the studio, we all wear multiple hats. We're stepping up, doing a lot of things.
Yep.
But during that exact job, you had a specific thing, which was DIT.
Right, and that was my one and only role.
Yeah. And so you and Alex Hatfield, you guys were DIT. And I noticed at one point, like, you had all your stuff done. You came over into our area, and one of our ACs needed help with something, and you wanted to jump in and grab it.
Right.
And I was like, you're helping or looking for something. And I pulled you aside really quick. And I said, in this situation, you need to stay in your lane. I said, you're going to try to help out. Someone's going to say, Tyson's looking for it. At that point, you're back doing DIT, your job. Someone's handing you,
It just gets way too messy way too quick when you mix the roles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, for that.
You get at your one thing, and you'll get noticed for that. That's more than enough.
Yeah, if you own I'd rather someone like own their job than try to like help everybody else.
Yeah.
But then that's also a catch. It kind of depends on the size of crew you're on too, because if you're on a
It
smaller
does.
crew, you want that person that's like willing to like
Do everything.
Do everything. So read the room too and know like if there's people in their lanes and those lanes are covered, let them wear their own hat.
Yeah.
If there's no hat, like if no one's in that lane and multiple people are kind of sharing that lane, be that person to be the first one to dive into that lane. Like, just read the room.
Yeah, I think most of the time it's fairly clear who's doing what, especially after you like meet everyone and shake the hands and all that. Yeah. You kind of figure out who's doing what, and then that allows you to go into your job better because you know what your one thing is.
Yeah.
Or if you need to step up and help out some way somehow, like if that's absolutely necessary, then you can do that.
Yeah, I feel like it can be intimidating too because we'll get. Like this happened to me just the other day. I walked into the room, and I know everybody, right? Mm-hmm. And so literally everybody in that room is coming up and giving me hugs and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's Charles! Hey, blah 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 blah." Mm-hmm. Every single person did. And then there was like 2 people there that I didn't know, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!" Charles walks into a room and like it blows up, kind of a thing. And I feel like that can be intimidating for somebody that's new, where they're like, "Oh shoot, like is that what I should be doing?" Should I be like, oh my gosh, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. When like, well, if you're brand new, like maybe you probably shouldn't be. Like, it's okay. You know, like don't be intimidated just because.
That's actually a good point because when I was starting out, I didn't necessarily have those relationships with a few people where it was necessary for me to jump up and say hi to them on set. And it was confusing because you're like, wait. Everyone's friends with them and saying hi to them. Like, should I be doing that? Or, like, should I stay here by my camera and just, like, not interact with them? And there is that kind of weird thing, and I think that's a good point. Like, it's okay to, like, not be that person.
Yeah.
Say hi to them at lunch.
I felt that way on my first time when you guys brought me on set. I was like, oh, man, these guys know everybody. Like, they're talking to everybody. I don't know anyone. Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
But it kind of works itself out. Like
it totally does.
You kind of just play it by ear.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And by the end
it
of
works
it,
out.
like the third day, you were like over helping. Like we were completely wrapped out, and you were like over helping the guys like clean up the monitors and different things.
Yeah.
And talking to hair
and it's
makeup,
not a big deal.
And like we were all just skateboarding at the end of it,
Yeah.
and it was fun.
It gets super chill.
And like you have those times to build those.
Yeah. 100%.
Evan, have you ever felt like in a scenario like you just didn't know what to do, and then you kind of had to like work through it?
I mean, yeah, I think everyone's going to end up going through that at some point in their career, especially when you start moving into a new department. Your first couple sets are always going to be fire by or trial by fire. Mm-hmm. Like, and in my experience, at least in the people that I know and hang out with, I would not expect your career early on as you're growing new in film in a new department to be smooth and to not get your hand slapped at some point. Like every single person I have known has screwed up and got their hand slapped. It's just part of the learning curve.
Yeah, it'd be
So,
weird if you
like,
didn't have that.
Yeah, it's
Honestly.
like your first couple sets moving into film or a new department or anything, you're always going to have those moments where you're going to be corrected. You're doing something wrong. Like you're not going to come in knowing everything. And like we've talked about a million times, there's not always the time for someone to pull aside and sit there and teach you for 3 hours and give you all the basics. You're going to learn on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think the best thing there is, we have one mouth and 2 ears. So, like, definitely listen twice as much as you're talking kind of thing. And, tune into that. Hang out on set. And, like, it's totally cool to, like, just chill. Like, go through, like, your settings on your camera, settings on monitor, go through your inventory, organize your stuff. Like, don't feel like you need to be that person in the huddle of people talking and just kind of, like, standing around. Like, my first year, I don't think I had any of that. And then, like, by year 3, I would have those, like, 3 or 4 people where it'd be, like, a close hand slap, like, yo, we're working together. This is really cool. And then, like, year 6, it was like, yo, we're brothers. We've been through life shit. We've been there for each other. You've called me on a weekend with a flat tire. Now, like, when I see you on set, it's more than just, like, we're working together. And that takes years, just like anything else. So.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about radio etiquette. So, like,
okay,
We're not the best on that
I was like,
sometimes either.
Charles, are you calling me out right now?
Yeah, we like to talk
Or-
shit and make jokes on the radio.
Okay, so there's two things. Are you talking about camera radio? Or are you talking about?
Are you talking about context or are we talking about walkie surveillance?
no, not comms.
Yeah,
we're
so
talking
with
walkies.
every
So, like,
productions, you'll get everything.
Yeah, so let's make the clarification of what the difference is. So comms are like open two-way radio, not two-way.
Video
They're-
game headset looking thing,
yeah,
headphone,
video game headset
flip down
thing,
mic.
and it's what is the word that I'm trying to say?
It's just like an open channel.
2 people can talk at the same time, or 5 people can talk at the same
It's
time.
like a
It's
constant
party
open
line.
channel, yeah.
Yeah, constant open channel. Everybody can talk to each other.
It's like a
all
Discord
the time.
room.
Yeah. Whereas a radio or a walkie-talkie, it is a one-way communication at a time, and you have to push a button in order to talk.
I think this actually you're bringing up a great. At first, I was like, "What are you talking about, Charles?" But like, perfect topic. And I think we start back with like being a PA on the radio and kind of going up how we were saying, because I can't tell you how many times we've been on radio trying to like talk and somebody's just like blowing up the radio and we've like thrown it out of our ear and like had the conversation of what needs to be done
All the time.
all the time. So if you're a PA and you get a sweet little radio that communicates you to every channel and every person on set, do you chat with everyone on set? Are you talking to people? What are you doing with that
No,
thing?
and I think, and this is where I get in trouble, is because I'm so used to the short, like, copy, or I need this, copy. You know, like the short communications, like, and
Which
that,
is how
that tends
radio-
to follow me home and gets me in trouble.
That's okay. I was like, that's where you go with it. Yeah. I get some weird looks when like the girlfriend's like telling me like, let's go on a date tonight. Copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but the radios are there as like a means of communication over distances, right? Where we have to close that distance. And so it's a tool and you usually have a set number of people, in your department that, everybody has one, everybody's listening to everybody else's conversation, and not everybody wants to hear what's being said over the radio. And so radio communications are designed to be like short and to the point, like, hey, I need a C-stand, hey, I need a flag, and then you just need to know that somebody's doing it.
I think it's important too and we've talked about this, but a lot of film production and the structure of film production comes from the military and a lot of people coming from the war into the film industry. And a lot of that communication from radio talk has been just like transferred over.
100%.
And so there's a huge similarity in like alpha camera, bravo camera to like copy 10-1, 10-2s, like all that kind of stuff is just like,
Because it works.
It
like,
works.
It's so precise, which I actually loved. When I first got on set and everyone was like, yo, I need this copy. Like, it took me a minute to learn it, but it's so, like, the precision is really nice.
Yeah, it's
honestly.
efficient.
It's
Yeah.
efficient, yeah, exactly.
but with that, there also becomes that level. If you're coming in at a PA, the only thing you should probably be saying on that radio is copy when somebody is giving you information. That's about it. Unless you're holding up a corner and you're communicating with somebody for lock-offs or something like that. Outside of that, you keep that radio clear for the team to communicate.
Yeah.
Now, oh my gosh, what am I looking for? Each group
Department.
In a production has its own channel.
Department.
Each department. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Each department has their own channel, and so with that, there is a little bit of division. We're not hearing hair and makeup.
Yeah.
We're not hearing that, but PAs a lot of the time for lunches or certain things happening will blow through the channels and communicate something.
Spin the channels. That's what they say. Spin the
Spin
channels.
the channels, blow through the channels. Like they hit everything and say the same thing. With that, there's been a few times where like you're in the heat of it and they're like blowing through channels and you're like, get the hell off my channel. Like we're trying to have a conversation right now.
Yeah.
So I think with that, it would be read the room. If someone gives you something to communicate over the radios, if it's not immediate of something that needs to happen and you notice something's happening, like don't interrupt them. Give it 5 seconds, wait for that to end, then communicate that. Steppage is like the absolute worst, which is when I'm communicating something and someone else steps on the radio and it will either cut me off or
They're not physically stepping on the radio, but
Yeah.
they're pushing and keying the radio at the same time that you are.
Yeah, and if you're really mad at your buddy and everything's going completely smooth and they're trying to communicate something and you want to make them really mad, you just key like your radio while they're talking and they can't get it. Don't do that. But yes, like I think there is just like read the room. I think at the end of the day, it's like don't chatter up the only line of communication between the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just gonna mess things up.
Yeah, there is, and there is a learning curve, I would say, with radios. You know, because we could be having a conversation here, we could have the same conversation on set, and all of us could be wearing radios, and all of a sudden, I'll just stop talking and stare off into space as the voices in my head are talking to me, right? And then I'm like, see ya.
Yep.
You know?
And no coming in like if you are PA or whatever, and if you're talking to someone and they just stop listening and walk away, that is so normal. They are not being rude.
Yeah.
Someone's just giving them something in the air and they're going to do it. And I think that is a common thing as we're talking on set. We'll be mid-conversation, and if he stops and like kind of looks off, I know that he's like,
That's actually a good point, because some people could think that that's like a really rude
Being rude.
thing. Yeah, when in
100%.
reality, it's just doing your job properly.
And what's funny is it could be 30 minutes later, it could be 4 hours later, but we'll come back and pick up the conversation
100%.
right where we left off.
100%.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's just how it is, you
Yeah.
know?
and it's always funny seeing kind of the newer people in the industry when they're having a conversation with you and they're being told something and they don't want to be rude.
And they
they're-
ignore the radio.
Yeah.
And, like, or they're like,
Yeah.
and you're like, go do it. Like,
Yeah.
dude, we're at work. Like,
Like,
go.
it's all right. Just drop it.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
do it.
So I think there's that, and then at the end of the day, I mean, your key or your key in your department has the radio. So if that's your DP or your first ACs
Yeah,
or
your
like
key
your
grip.
like
Your hair, your key makeup person.
they have the radio.
Yeah.
So like in the sense of like if they're ever talking or anything's happening, you let them have the radio. The end.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is is talking to another department or like giving your opinion, right, to somebody else that's not necessarily in your department.
So are you saying like if we notice something, say with art department,
Yes.
to jump on their channel?
Yeah.
So
Or not just his channel, but just say something in general.
I would say with that, it's know your team. You know, like if Benjo or something's going on with the lighting and I see like one of their lights is doing something weird, we have that relationship where I feel comfortable enough to jump on their channel and say something. I don't think I would have done that 2 years ago or prior.
Yeah, let's say starting out, like we're a new PA on set.
I was like, we should establish the difference though between like if you're a PA versus an AC, and if you're pointing out like, hey, I don't think that light should be at 3,500
Well-
Kelvin, it should be at 5,000 Kelvin, versus like, hey, that light's out. Like, there's a difference in what you're calling
With
out.
that, I
like,
think is like the only person who should be doing that is really like in first AC, who is looking at what the camera sees and that is their job, or tell the person in charge. I think I don't know how many times we've been on set where I've had an idea, something's not right, and before I've gone to the director, set dress, anyone, I'll always go up to Charles and be like, "Hey, are you cool if I say this?" Or like, "Hey, are you cool if I give my advice with this?" And he'll be like, sometimes he'll be like, "Go for it," or sometimes he'll be like, "What is it?" And I'll tell him, and he'll be like, "Actually," and he may have more insight than I have, and so by going through him, and he'd be like, "No, actually, they want it like that for this reason," and me be like, "Good thing I didn't just interrupt the director to try to give my input and look like an idiot."
Yeah. And I think that's the point that I was trying to make is you should go to your boss.
Yeah.
Right? So if you as a camera assistant, you see a light that's like not the right color temperature, you should go, go to your boss, go to your camera operator, go, if you're a grip, then go to your key, or, if you're an electrician, you go to the gaffer, or whatever position it is, go to your key and say, "Hey, like, I saw this, like, is this something we should talk about, And you might not necessarily get the credit for it because then the key is going to go to the DP and be like, "Yo, bro, like the light's out," or to the gaffer or whoever, and save the day. But at least the key will have the respect and being like, "Oh, I hired the right person and they went through the chain of command."
I was about to say chain of command, and that's it right there. I can't tell you how much respect I've received and gained, and just like between me and other people where those situations have happened. Like bringing up Benjo again. He's come up to me before and been like, "Hey, look at this on the screen," and pointed something out for me to be like, to the DP real quick, and it makes me look good, or vice versa. And like,
exactly.
There's a lot of that goes on where if you can scratch someone's back, like, just wait, they will scratch your back. And making other people look good is like so gangster on set. Like,
and like you said, that's not even necessarily chain of command of bottom going to up. Like you just said, Benjo's a gaffer, and he, like, you admit, we all love Benjo to death. You make friends with him on set. He sees stuff like that, he'll go help first AC he sees. He's like, "Hey, go tell your DP to,"
because it's a team effort.
Exactly,
like we're all making the same movie. We're not like fighting with each other.
I think the biggest point there, and we've said it 100 times, but don't throw anyone under the bus. Like, it does not make you look good. Like, if you're coming in, or if you're a 10-year or whatever, don't throw people under the bus. Like,
that doesn't mean taking
down.
shit from anyone.
It makes just like everything's just like
like if
way cooler to be like, yo, go fix that light real quick. And to that point, don't be, if you're in camera, don't go touch the light. Communicate it to the lighting department, and like that will go tenfold.
That doesn't mean taking someone else's blame, but
I've taken other people's blame though. Like sometimes you have to eat that.
I've eaten stuff as like a group as a whole, but not like individually necessarily for like something drastic necessarily.
I can't tell you how many times an operator has told me to do something with the camera, and then the DP come over and be like, "Camera's supposed to be here," and all I do is, "Yes, sir," and I do the camera again. I do not.
Yeah.
I don't go, "Whoa, so and so told me to move it here, and that's why it's here," and then I don't.
Yeah, just take responsibility.
Yes,
and
sir,
move on.
and get it done. Yeah.
Don't take it personally. It's a job. Yeah.
And then I can't tell you how many times I've been yelled at by a DP, and then after they're buying me a beer that night. Like, you're just on set. Like, it's just a job. Like,
it's all in the heat of it, and that's the conversation in unto itself. It's just like, we're making movies. We're not saving lives. Like, do we have to like get mad and yell at each other? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
like you can have fun.
I think that'll phase out eventually. Just how, like, I mean, you hear stories from guys like Tommy back in the day that have, like, in the 70s, you couldn't sit, or there's guys you couldn't sit on set. There's really strict ADs and DPs.
I still believe in that.
I feel like it's all moving away from that.
I know there's like a lot of controversial behind that, and like the whole like, I don't think it's about sitting on set though, and I know it's
about being
a whole
lazy.
other topic.
Yeah.
But I think it's about time and place and position.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like if you're a PA and you're locking up a corner, you should just be sitting on a chair. Like, I think there is a little bit to that.
There's always something to do.
Yeah.
There's some way to help
agree.
out.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think, and I don't know if you know this, the biggest thing, and it's been a standard, and this is a whole nother thing, we don't need to jump into it, but it's a standard to be like on set, it was like no sitting, like no one sitting,
I did not know
unless
that,
you're
actually.
like,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise
especially
me.
PAs.
Okay.
well, PAs, ACs, like unless you are like the director, DP, or operator, you're never sitting down.
It still is a thing, dude. Like, as
I
a
can see that.
grip, like we would build grip walls, grip hangouts. Put up all of our flags. And
So you could sit
12
and
by,
relax.
so we could have like a hideout where
Yeah.
we could sit and relax. So that
Oh,
way, when
dang.
we're on set, you're just standing and nobody can see our little like, oh, that we're taking a break,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
to me, I think that's bullshit. Like,
It's a little over
you
the
shouldn't
top.
have to be standing.
Yeah,
on
you
your
shouldn't
feet
have
for
to
I,
12
hide.
I can
hours
see
a
why
day.
people might want to do that though.
Yeah.
Like I said, you see me on
It's-
set. I carry around that foldable chair on my bag. Like I'm not gonna sit 24/7. But like if I've done everything I need to do with my camera and my operator and my
Sit-
first AC,
sit
and
down.
the DP and the director are going over lighting for 20 minutes. There's no reason for me as an AC to be standing there.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
agree.
I can sit 10 feet away from them next to my camera and still pay attention.
Exactly.
Like
No, I mean, to that I agree, and I think there's a time and place, and it's just a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and again, like you're saying, if you're 1 day, 2 day show, different thing. And if you're 1 day in on a 2 month show, it's a different thing. We're talking
Totally.
like run of show. You're halfway through towards the end. Everyone's beat down. Like
Yeah.
that etiquette of
gotta
like, yeah,
sit
there's still time and place. But as you know, I'm a sitter like that, especially in those situations. I'll sit down, and put myself 10 feet away and still listen. Like I don't care. I'll unfold my chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So if you're starting out in the industry, if you're a 10-year in the industry, if you have comments, if you have experiences with these types of situations, throw them in the comments. I think people can really learn from this. I could learn from it, and
It's fun hearing people's stories.
it really
And
is.
Yeah,
set
no,
etiquette's
it's-
always evolving. Like
Yeah.
it's like we just talked about. It's always changing.
And no one's
like,
perfect. Like we've all made mistakes.
you're always gonna get
so-
slapped on the hand. Do not expect. I mean, you might be the lucky one, but do not expect to go through your career not getting slapped on the hand a handful of times throughout it.
Yeah,
Like
it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
you're learning.
So tell us about your experiences, and
Let us know.
hopefully you guys learned something from this one. And as always, guys,
Like and subscribe. It helps us out.
Please do that.
Yeah.
yeah, and we have some giveaways coming out
We do.
soon.
Big stuff.
Be on
Yeah.
the lookout for that, and some really cool stuff. We're going to NAB, so I don't know exactly. We may already have been at NAB, or we're at NAB right now, or we were at NAB. I don't know when this video is coming out. But you'll see NAB vlogs.
Yeah. This video's
It'll
coming
be
out
there.
tomorrow.
Just look out.
Oh, it's
for
going
it.
out tomorrow. Okay, so we're going next week
Okay. Next
to
week.
NAB, and we're super excited. We're picking up some new equipment and some good things for you guys to look forward to.
Yeah.
So-
So stay tuned.
See
See
you
ya.
next time.